This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. We talked about politicized science yesterday, which is to say not science. Fear-mongering associated with a particular story that's amplified by a pliant big government press corps. And we have an example of this locally that demands more follow-up. This is Sterigenics, this company out in Willowbrook that sanitizes medical equipment and uses a drug called ethylene oxide to do so. This was a campaign issue in at local level, state level, in the recently passed election cycle, where Democrats berated Rauner, berated the Trump administration, berated Peter Roskam over an alleged, conspiracy to cover up heightened levels, illegal levels of ethylene oxide in air samples around the Sterigenics facility, according to an EPA investigation. Well,
who called for the EPA to investigate, too?
I don't know.
It's all manufactured to me. I don't know.
EPA has since, and this happened over the holiday weekend, so sort of lost in the shuffle, said, might have misstated and mistested as a result, misstated the levels of ethylene oxide in air samples, and said that a clarification is expected. This is in conjunction with the CDC. This local apparatchik for the Centers for Disease Control named Mark Johnson, regional director.
Of the CDC.
He's a CDC official. Regional director for the CDC said Monday he expected a clarification from the EPA, but not a public retraction or formal apology over its erroneous report of harmful emissions of ethylene oxide that led to a warning back in August, cancer warning to residents living in Willowbrook, Hinsdale, Burr Ridge, and Darien. This regional director, Mark Johnson, Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry under the is his official home, if you will. He said Monday, the EPA statement last week that it miscalculated the levels of EO emissions did not mean the figures were invalid or the talk of cancer risks unwarranted. However, Mark Johnson and EPA officials have admitted privately, according to sources that one of the outlets that I spoke with, DuPagePolicyJournal.com is where you can find our story. Johnson and EPA officials admitted privately that even if the now discredited data had been accurate, only someone who had never left their home for 33 years straight would have an increased cancer risk, and even then only slightly. This faulty cancer warning that was issued not only was a political football, it's generated, obviously, great fear among the residents of these communities. It's generated lawsuits brought by the Attorney General's office of the state, Madigan, and Bob Berlin's DuPage County State's Attorney's office against Sterigenics.
Well, and then it spreaded this paranoia of, oh my gosh, little Johnny's got headaches. I remember watching Channel 5 saying, he's had these chronic headaches. Maybe it's because of Sterigenics and what they're spewing out of their plant to clean medical equipment, plastic medical equipment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then it snowballed into like, should I go running if I'm a resident in Burr Ridge? Or am I going to be harmed? I mean, they are so fraudulent. If they need to make a public apology to everyone, and I'd love to hear from somebody from Willowbrook, from Burr Ridge, from Hinsdale. 312-642-5600 our turnkey.pro answer line. 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment of what they went through. I mean, people were worried about they'll never be able to sell their homes now. It created a lot of fear and pandemonium.
Sure. The discredited report by Johnson, Mark Johnson, was posted on the internet without a formal announcement on Wednesday, August 22nd, on a conference call 3 days later, including officials from the EPA, Illinois Department of Public Health, DuPage County Health Department. Sources say Johnson apologized to village officials for his report's release, saying it was intended for internal use only and based on worst-case scenarios. He said there was actually no immediate health risk to residents of Willowbrook and surrounding communities, but he wouldn't state it publicly because he wasn't authorized to do so. Well, he wasn't authorized, apparently, to release the report either and to whip the public into a frenzy, but he didn't have a problem with doing that. He, at an August 29 town hall meeting, Johnson said that in opening remarks, he did not anticipate the report would be released, and he was, quote, hoping to clarify some of those conclusions. But, he was confronted by a bunch of hysterical and angry residents. I mean, understandably. There are people asking if they should let their children play outside. And so rather than admit that he was the responsible party for whipping people into a frenzy without foundation, he just recoiled. Kwame Raoul. This is September of this year. I've met with these residents and heard about their fear for their families. As a cancer survivor myself, I find it unconscionable that anyone would ignore a documented carcinogenic threat. Bruce Ron owes Willowbrook residents answers and an apology.
I love how they made it political. I mean, unbelievable.
Political science gets a political response from the politicos.
I'm a cancer survivor. I mean, shame on him.
And, hey, you know what, though? Being wrong means never having to apologize if you're a government bureaucrat, a partisan one, or if you're a partisan member of the Chicago Press Corps. This little toad, Michael Hawthorne, who's written a bunch of fantastical stories for the Tribune on the topic.
I've never even heard of him.
It doesn't matter. Fungible. Feeding, being hand-fed and spoon-fed by the Mark Johnsons of the world. He tweeted yesterday, the problem hasn't magically disappeared despite what Dan Proft and his financial backers want you to believe. It's so funny because we wrote stories about this, exposing the fraud that was committed on the people of these communities and the state, voters. Dan Proft and his financial backers. Boy, it sounds like Michael Hawthorne and his financial backers for the Tribune are a little nervous over his ersatz reporting. Yeah. As well they should be.
Squirmy there, huh?
What do Michael Hawthorne and the Tribune and his financial backers at the Tribune have to say about what we know Mark Johnson and EPA officials admitted privately but don't have the courage to say publicly, lest anybody have to take ownership for mistakes? Mistakes make themselves in government. They're not made by people. How about that? What do you have to say to all those people who were whipped into a frenzy, to those politicians who seized on people's fears, Kwame Raoul, Sean Casten, Spalding, to the unwillingness of the Tribune to get the facts so you have a correct record, and when you didn't, when you turned out to be wrong and you turned out to be a purveyor of agitprop for this Mark Johnson, correct the record. Can't do that.
And I'm always curious about the timing. Right before the midterm elections, somehow got leaked, turned
Can't
into
do
something
that.
political.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. What about all the trial lawyers, with billboards and circulars trying to get people to sign up to class action lawsuits against Sterigenics? Yeah. Putting a business out of business, too. Do you care about the employees at Sterigenics? Big operation.
Yeah, it's huge.
There are other companies, too, that use ethylene oxide who could also be in the crosshairs. Fourth branch of government, regulatory agencies. Fifth branch of government, the big government press corps. Steve in Downers Grove, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I had a senior position with the DuPage County Health Department, And if you're expecting them to do anything of any significance, good luck. They are inept, absolutely inept, totally driven by a board of wannabe Republican leaders. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you knew anybody that went to the DuPage County Health Department for a health or medical service? Never, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Never.
I don't know.
I mean,
yeah.
Find out. Nobody ever goes. So to rely on them to solve any public health problem is absolutely a joke. And the whole health department is a joke. Thanks, Dan. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Tony on the south side.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy, my lammy lamb. Listen, this is how Tony from the south side does a field study test on something like this. I imagine Sterigenics been around for 30 years or so, whatever, how long they've been there, right? They got employees that work there, correct? If none of the employees got cancer, then there's your study. Boom. End of story.
All right, Tony.
Have a good day.
Tony, wait to be contacted by the CDC for a senior level post. Very
They have
good.
stores. I mean, they have a Sterigenics International Inc. in Schaumburg, a cleaning service in Deerfield. They're all over our metropolitan area.
Great piece by two doctors and realclearscience.com. Junk science has become a profitable industry. Who will stop it? Dr. Stanley Young, who's a statistician at National Institute of Statistical Sciences and member of EPA Science Advisory Board. Henry Miller, who's a physician and molecular biologist, senior fellow at the Pacific Research Institute. They talk about what we've talked about before, how you have data dredging, harking, hypothesis after the result is known, science that's bought and paid for, the results that are bought and paid for. This is the corporate level, but this is also at the political level. There's a political agenda to be served by generating certain results, and there's profit motive that's at play in academic institutions and research institutions that have a particular political agenda. Junk science has become a profitable industry. Who's going to stop it? Maybe by exposing some of these frauds, these rushes to judgment, the fear-mongering, the unwillingness to correct the record when it turns out you were wrong. That's really telling. Maybe people will start to approach some of these stories and these scares with the healthy skepticism that unfortunately too many erstwhile scientists don't.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.